Hey guys, so today is going to be a pretty special video. I have been promising you guys this video for a few weeks now, or a couple of months actually. Ever since I found out I was pregnant, I promised that I would tell you guys about our story, how we found out we were pregnant, our struggles getting pregnant and stuff like that. So it is a very touchy subject for me because I was the one who struggled in the relationship, and so it is a very sensitive subject. I'm going to try and hold it together the entire time. I realize there are thousands upon thousands of women out there who struggle every day, including a bunch of you guys. I have read your comments over and over again, and a lot of you out there are struggling currently, have struggled in the past, or are worried about struggling in your future. And it's definitely a concern that was brought to me abruptly that I was unaware of in my younger years. So this video is going to be all about that. I am going to talk about all sorts of things that we tried, we didn't try. If it probably has some adult talk in it. If you're not comfortable with that, you won't hurt my feelings, feel free to X out. And also, I'm going to be talking about medications and different things, and if you're not comfortable with that kind of stuff either, again, feel free to X out. It is very personal that I'm sharing this with you guys, so I would appreciate no negativeness about it. I'm here to support you guys, and I hope that you're here to support me as well. So with all that preface out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into the story. So just a little background story. Andres and I have been together, boyfriend, girlfriend, for 7 years. In fact, we just passed our 7-year anniversary on the 21st of June. That his birthday is June 3rd. We hung out his birthday, and then we were boyfriend, girlfriend really quickly on June 21st. About 6 months later, we moved in together. I actually moved into his apartment from my house. I was 19 years old. It was crazy. He was 29. He had just turned 29. So he is 10 years older than me, if you guys didn't know that. We get that a lot, though. Most people can see that he is older than me. They just don't know how much older. So yeah, he is about 10 years, like 9 years and some months older than me. So we moved in really quickly. Our relationship moved very, very quickly. It just was one of those things that we were meant to be together. So we moved in 6 months later, and then I stayed at his apartment for the rest of his lease, and then after that we got our own apartment together. Is that right? Yes, and we lived there for 2 years. And then we started building the house that we live in now, and we have been in this house almost 4 years. Yeah, because we moved in September of 2009. So this September, in a few months, it'll be 4 years. This is crazy. I can't even believe that. So, and then, during that time, we got married. We got engaged on our 4-year anniversary. Yes. He would probably kill me if I didn't know this information. But yeah, we got engaged on our 4-year anniversary on June 21st, 2010. And we got married on October 8th, 2011. So almost a year and a half later, a year and 4 months later, we got married. So I have always been one of those type women who is pretty, I wouldn't say traditional, but I don't want to say this without stepping on anyone's toes, because I'm not judgmental in the way that I feel like you have to be married to have sex or to have a baby or anything like that, because my mom was not married when she had my brother and I, and my brother and I have the same father, but he was never in the picture. It was my mom who raised us. So I have no judgment against stuff like that. It's just my own personal values. I did not want to have a baby or get pregnant until we were married. That was my goal. I had figured I already waited that long. Why not wait until I was married for us to try and get pregnant? So again, no judgment if you are a single mom or if you had a baby out of wedlock. That doesn't, I could care less about other people. It does not bother me whatsoever. I have no judgment on that kind of stuff. It's just my own personal feelings. That's how I felt about the situation. So my mom had been pushing for us to have a baby for many years because she felt like we waited way too long to get engaged and way too long to get married, because we moved in so quickly. She anticipated us getting married quite quickly after that, and it ended up taking 4 years for us to even get engaged and almost 5.5 to get married. So yeah, she wasn't she wasn't thrilled. She had been pushing for grandbabies for the longest time. Well, in July 2011, we came across Emily, who I actually have an entire video about her fostering slash adoption, whatever you want to call it. I will link that up here for you guys, because I feel like you need to know a little bit of a background story on her to understand why and how she came into our lives. So just briefly, we started fostering her in July of 2011, so almost 2 years now she's been in our house. And then we weren't sure that she was going to be staying with us. We got married in October, you know, everything was fine, dandy, and we weren't sure she was going to be staying with us past January of 2012. We thought her biological mother was going to get her back. So we were really worried about that. We had no anything that we were going to adopt children or foster children. It just kind of fell into our laps, and we couldn't be happier now about it. But you know, back then we had no clue what was going to happen. So it ended up her biological mother, obviously, because we still have her, did not, she lost, her rights were terminated in January 2012. So we begun the adoption process from then on. And it took about 11 months for that to happen, because her legal adoption took place in November of 2012. So even though she's been in our home for 2 years, and we've had her for 2 years and have treated her like our daughter for 2 years, legally she's only been our daughter since November. But you know, of course, your heart doesn't feel that way. I feel like she's could have come out of me. So anyway, that's her story. Like I said, the video will be linked up here in case you're more interested in it, little details of it and stuff like that. So when we got married in October 2011, let me rewind a little. I started my period when I was 15, which is very late for a girl, but my mom, I was 15 going on 16. I was a freshman in high school. It's crazy. All my friends had already started their period years prior, and I was the last one. So, of course, you know, I was relishing in my bliss of not having a period for that many years, but it ended up coming eventually, like it always does. So my mom didn't start till really late also, so I didn't think anything of it, you know, it wasn't a big deal. So I was 15 going on 16. I was not sexually active at the time or anything like that. I just was having very, very heavy menstrual cycles and horrific cramps. I mean, cramps to the point where I would come home from school, I was doubling over in pain. They were very, very, very bad. So I went to my mom's OBGYN at the time, and I wanted to see if it was recommended at my age, because I was so young, if I could get on some sort of birth control so that I could lighten my periods, because it was so bad to the point where I was bleeding through my pants. I mean, it was embarrassing. I'd be at school, I would have to wear double pads. I could never wear tampons. I would have to wear double pads, and I was still bleeding through, and it was just really painful. So I dreaded period time. I mean, all women dread period time, but mine was like 10 times worse. So she ended up putting me on a 28-day cycle birth control, and at the time it was called Yasmin. So now looking back on it, it wasn't the best idea I've ever had, because there's all kinds of lawsuits with Yaz and Yasmin, and I'm thinking that's what led to my struggles. But anyway, I was on it. I was about 17 when I got on it. Yeah, like around 17, and you don't actually have to start having pap smears until you're sexually active. So I was, you know, I had to go in for regular checkups and stuff like that, just to make sure that the birth control was working for my periods and whatnot. So anyway, I had been on that for a few years, and when I met Andres, I feel like shortly after that I switched birth control, because I think it had changed to Yasmin, from Yasmin to Yaz. I want to say it was still a 28-day cycle, and it was just working wonderfully for me. It was not bad at all. It was completely numbing my cramps. I was having very light periods, so I never thought twice about it. Never thought twice. There would be a couple months where I would skip a month here and there, And, you know, I was irresponsible with them. I don't know what to tell you. We were always safe. I never thought twice about any of that kind of stuff. So I was just using it to control my periods. I never realized what kind of harm it could do my body. So I continued to take birth control. Never thought about having a baby. I never, thank you Jesus, never had a scare. I never had to worry about being pregnant. I never skipped a period and had to take a pregnancy test. I never had to worry about that kind of stuff because I was always very careful. I just, thank God, because I couldn't even imagine what I would have done had I been so young with a baby, and it just, thank goodness. So the birth control over the years started to really cut down my periods. I felt like I was having next to none. Sometimes I would skip a month. So my OBGYN said, well, maybe you should try a 30-day pack. So it gives you a week-long period instead of 4 days. I said, okay. So I went to Loestrin, which is a 30-day or 31-day cycle, and it gives you a week of sugar pills so that you are supposed to have your period for almost a week, 5 to 7 days versus 3 to 4 like the Yaz was giving. So I did that. Once we thought, both of us knew that once we got married we were going to want to try and have children, I contacted my OBGYN. She said that it was fine to go ahead and just get off the pill a month before, make sure it was completely out of my system before I started trying. So once we got married, we started trying immediately, and I got off the pill, and I never had a period. October went by, November went by, I didn't have a period. I finally had a period in December, and it was very heavy. Back to the same old excruciating pain, horrible cramps, very heavy. What I did notice though is I wasn't ovulating. After my period, you know, depending on how long your cycle is, you ovulate anywhere from day 14 to day 21, depending on how long your cycle is. So I wasn't ovulating, and ovulation is something you'd have to look it up so you could see pictures of stuff like that, and so that you could kind of get an idea of what it's supposed to feel like. It kind of gives you like a gooey type substance down there when you wipe. That's the best way I know how to describe it. There is all kinds of methods online to be able to check it and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I just noticed I wasn't ovulating, but I was like, you know what, I'm not going to worry about it. We just started trying. It's not a big deal. My OB kept telling me, you know, we don't usually start checking for infertility issues until you've been trying for a year. So I was like, okay, that's no problem. So we continued to try, hit and miss. We really didn't think twice about it until we were about 6 to 8 months in, and it was getting frustrating. I was getting a period 1 month, I was skipping 3 months, having a period, and then skipping 2 weeks, and then having a period. It was just completely way off track. So it was like we had no idea when to even try or how often. It was just so random. So about 6 to 8 months in, because it was about the summertime, so probably more like 9 months, sometime during the summertime, I told my OB, I said, I'm just not having a regular period. Like, I'm not sure what's going on. She says, well, just keep trying. If at that year mark, still your periods are irregular, we'll start to look into some fertility options and start to test for stuff. So me being the impatient person that I was, we actually set up, and my doctor had outsourced a semen analysis test from the rest. She said because it's always easier for the male to get tested first and then go from there. So that's what we did. He got tested. Of course, his sperm was fine, because we were worried because he's never had children and he's older than I am, that maybe that was the issue. Although deep down I knew it was me, but we wanted to try anyway. So he was fine, so that was a sigh of relief. So then it was my turn, of course. So I had to get a transvaginal sonogram, which is where they stick the probe inside of you and they look at your ovaries, they look at your uterus, everything, to make sure you don't have any cysts or tumors or any kind of abnormalities or anything like that. So I had to go do that, and this was like August 2012. Yeah, August 2012. So it just, I was embarrassed, because I know plenty of women have problems throughout everywhere, throughout the world. I couldn't believe it was happening to me. And everyone kept telling me, well, just relax, don't stress. And I wasn't really stressing about it, but in the back of my mind, it was always like, why am I not able to get pregnant? Why? And I was worried maybe it was PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, or maybe it was endometriosis or anything, really. I mean, cysts on my ovary, like anything that could prevent me. I was worried that it was something like that. So my results came back and I was perfectly fine. The only thing, I didn't have any follicles in my ovaries, and follicles are the actual eggs that can be retrieved, or they come down your fallopian tubes to be implanted in your uterus. I didn't have any, so pretty much I wasn't ovulating. That's the only thing that they noticed. All of my sizes were fine. I didn't have any cysts. I didn't have a tilted uterus. Nothing, you know, considering my size and everything was fine. And also, I forgot to mention, I was worried about being plus size, because I know plus size women tend to have more fertility issues than the average size woman. And that's not true in all cases, but it is in some cases. And especially, I've heard from a lot of you guys, you're plus size and you've either, again, had trouble conceiving or worried about conceiving and stuff like that. So that was, of course, my concern. So somewhere in that time, I was trying to, in fact, when I started my weight loss vlog for Weight Watchers, that's when I was really like, I need to lose weight. Maybe that's really what my problem is. And then I ended up getting pregnant. So anyway, back to August. So my tests and everything came out fine. She said I didn't have any follicles, so I wasn't ovulating at all. So she told me, excuse me, I needed to see if my cycle would get back on track, but it didn't. So in September, she gave me medroxyprogesterone, and what that is it's a progesterone pill, so it makes you start your period. And at first I was taking 50 milligrams, and I believe I was taking them for 5 days or 7 days. I still have the pills. I'd have to look. I can't remember. I think it was 7 days actually. You had to take them for a whole week straight, and then the next week you would start your period. Worked, started my period. I thought, okay, great, this is going to jumpstart me. Maybe it'll help. And I started my period in September, didn't have one in October. And of course, I was a little bummed because October was our 1-year anniversary, and I was hoping to at least be pregnant by then, and nothing had happened. So October came and went, didn't have a period. She gave me another round of medroxyprogesterone in November. She said that, and this was November 2012, so just this past year, she said that she doesn't like to go too many rounds because, you know, the medication does have side effects. It can cause cancer later in life and stuff like that, and she just didn't want to take any risks. So she said she would let me go one more round on the progesterone, 50 milligrams, and if it didn't kickstart my period, she would jump it up to the 100 milligrams, and then we would try fertility medication. So I said, okay. So she gave me the progesterone again, and I started my period in November, and I actually started my period by myself early in December, but she still wanted me to take the fertility pills. So I think I'm a couple months ahead of myself actually, because I took 2 rounds. No, I'm right, because I took 1 round of a fertility medication. It was called Clomid, and that was to make me ovulate. So during this time, we had bought at-home ovulation kits, which I wish I had brought them up here with me, but pretty much you can Google them. They just look like little strips, and you have to urinate on them. Well, okay, this strip is literally like little smaller than my pinky. There's no way I was going to be able to urinate on that. So Andres actually makeshift a like little cup holder of some sort that I could urinate into at home, and then I would dipstick the little thing in. I don't know. So I was tracking my ovulation like the entire summer for months at a time, and I was never ovulating. That's how we found out from the doctor when I went to the test. She confirmed I hadn't been ovulating. I'll find a link to them down below if you're interested. If you are trying to get pregnant, they're really, really great as long as you have normal cycles within reason, because if you don't have normal cycles, it doesn't track like it's supposed to. you'll have a random day here and a random day here, and it's never accurate. So again, I'll link them down below if you're curious, and I'll try and find information about the medroxyprogesterone and also the Clomid down below. Clomid is a very, I don't want to say a strong medication, but it does have side effects as well. She told me that she would not let me go more than 6 cycles on it. So I was getting really nervous because, of course, you don't want to have to turn to in vitro or anything like that. If it comes down to it, it's very expensive, and I was worried the entire time. It was just a chaotic moment. So I had taken the progesterone, the progesterone in December to start my period, and I also took the Clomid 50 milligrams, and nothing. I wasn't pregnant. I couldn't even tell you how many pregnancy tests we went throughout this almost year and a half period. Probably we were buying them in like quantity packs from Sam's because I was constantly having to take one because I wasn't sure if it had worked, you know, if this was the time that it had worked. So that was in December 2012, nothing. And every time I had to go in and give blood to see if I had ovulated. So the doctor told me, well, you're not ovulating, and I'm like, great, you know, just great, because I had to go on like the 18th, like the 16th to 18th day of my cycle. I had to go into the doctor and get my progesterone tested to see if I was ovulating. That was for from August to December, I had to do that. And then that's when she's like, you're still not ovulating. I want you to go on the Clomid, which is the fertility medication. So that was in December, didn't get pregnant. January rolls around. I had already called in the prescription for the progesterone, the progesterone and the Clomid to go ahead and take it again for January cycle. My cycles were at the end of each month, so it actually, I say December and January, but it actually was like the end of December, like the 29th, 30th through like the 3rd or 4th of January. So my cycles were actually like the very end of the month, last few days of the month, first couple days of the month, and then we were checking ovulation in the middle of the month. So that's how my cycles were the entire time when I had a regular cycle. So anyway, that was December, so she had to call in I went January, I think it was like January 12th or something like that. Yeah, I think it was like the 12th or the 11th of January. And she said, you're not ovulating. She's like, I want to bump you up to the Clomid 100 milligrams. I'm like, fine, you know, of course, like it makes me so nervous. So I called in the prescription. I got the progesterone so I could start my period just in case I didn't start it by myself. I got the Clomid so that I could take it for the fertility, and probably, I don't know, I felt like I was ovulating that month, and it was the weirdest thing. And I didn't start my period at the end of January like I was supposed to, so I took a pregnancy test every month because you cannot be pregnant and take progesterone or Clomid because it can give you birth defects. So at the end of January, I took a pregnancy test just to verify that I was not pregnant, so that I could start the progesterone to start my period and the Clomid for fertility. One random night, didn't even think about it. I was thinking, get this test over with so that I could take another round of this stuff just to see what happens. I took the test and it was positive, but I had taken it at night, and I was like, I told Andres, I said, oh my God, look at this. He's like, oh, what? Because none of our other tests had ever even come back remotely positive. They were all completely negative, not even a chance in hell that they were positive. And this one was like very, very light. It was a first response, one of those pink ones. In fact, I still have it in my bathroom. It has like the first line, and if you see the second line, it means you're pregnant. It was so faint. I was like, there's no way. Like, she said I wasn't ovulating. How is that even possible? So it was. And we freaked out and took more tests because I was like, there's no way. We need to get one that's like clear. So we got the clear blue, and it says pregnant, not pregnant. So I was like, okay, well, I'll take this one. That way there's like no in between. You're either pregnant or not pregnant. And it said pregnant. So I was like, okay, I was still in shock. I just don't believe it. I said, we'll take more in the morning. So I had like 3 the next morning, and I took them all, and they all came out positive. I could not believe it. That was like the end of January. I just could not believe it. It was just completely crazy to me because we had struggled so much up till then, had to go for so many doctor's appointments, so many different tests. I mean, we had already started to look into the in vitro process. Like, it was just crazy. I just couldn't even believe it. So it happened. We got pregnant, and then February 7th, and we told my mom, of course, and immediate family. February 7th, we went for a blood test, and it came back positive, and we were just in shock. So I'm so thankful that I took that pregnancy test, because I would have taken the progesterone and the Clomid and not even thought twice, and it could have made me miscarry just from taking it. So I'm so grateful that I was on a regimen and I had already learned what I needed to do and how my body was going to respond to it. So that was our story. Of course, we went for our ultrasounds and everything, and now I'm 24 weeks pregnant. 24 weeks in one day, actually, and we couldn't be more excited. So I encourage you women out there who are struggling to have faith, to get on forums, to talk to other women who have had issues before. I don't feel by any means we had an easy ride. I think we're blessed and very lucky for it to have happened at all. I don't know in the future if having to take this medication will come back to bite me or anything like that, or if it will be a blessing and it'll make my periods be back on track after I give birth. I don't know. Only the future will be able to tell. I may have to take more medication in the future to have another baby, so we'll see. But at least now I know my body. I know what things worked and what things didn't work, and I'm not saying that the medication works for everyone, because I did a lot of blog research and stuff like that, and sometimes medications don't work for everyone. Clomid didn't always work. You know, I talked to women who went through 6 rounds of Clomid and it never worked for them. So I'm not condoning it by any means. I definitely think if you're considering getting pregnant or you're trying to conceive, talk to your doctor. If it has to do with you not ovulating, maybe try progesterone to see if it does kickstart your body, and if it doesn't, try a fertility medication before you go to great lengths to do in vitro and stuff like that. This is just my opinion and my experience. Of course, like I said, everyone's is different. I'm not saying one way is better versus the other, because we tried every which way, let me tell you, that we could, because I did not want to have to take medication to get pregnant. But so far so good. Madeline is nice and healthy. She's growing the way she's supposed to. Haven't had any complications, thank God, and all we can do is hope for the best in the future. So I hope that this was helpful to some of you girls out there that are struggling, have struggled, or will struggle in the future, to know that you're not the only one that has struggled. There are thousands of women out there that struggle every day, and I'm just blessed to be one of them that has gotten over that struggling hump. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I know I normally don't respond to my pregnancy comments or my pregnancy vlog comments, because there's so many of them, I get overwhelmed. But if you guys have any specific questions, I am more than willing to answer anything for you guys that you have down from anything, even personal. It doesn't matter, because I was so grateful for the women who put themselves out there for me to learn during my experience. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I hope it helps some of you out there. I hope to hear from you guys soon in the comments, and let me know what you thought, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.